God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Thank you so much for joining me. So I was planning on doing this whole video dedicated to this topic, but suffice it to say, I don't have today the time or the patience to read 96 pages of court opinion. That's actually how long the opinion document is. I didn't know that dissents would be as long as that, but apparently it's out of this world. So we're not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to give you the highlights, and then we're going to talk about another topic that I think warrants some commentary. So double header for this video. So first up, the Supreme Court just handed Trump administration a loss on immigration, and Gorsuch was the tie-breaking vote. Now, stop for a moment and think about what a Trump loss on immigration means. Because what has been the talking points around immigration since Trump announced his candidacy in 2015? It's all about illegal immigration. The Trump administration has never been against legal immigration. It's all about being against illegal immigration. That's the big point. Secondary to that is slowing legal immigration. Number one priority, stopping illegal immigration. Number two, slowing legal immigration. Number three is deporting criminal legal aliens. No, that would be number four. Hold on. I'm playing this in my head as I'm saying it, so give me a second here. Number one, stopping illegal immigration. Number two, deporting illegal immigrants. Number three, slowing legal immigration. Number four, deporting legal immigrants. So when you see this headline, you're supposed to think the Supreme Court just beat Trump's number one immigration issue, which is stopping illegal immigration. But that's not actually what the discussion in this case was about. I don't even think it's all that much about immigration per se. The law that's being debated is let's get into it. I'm sure I'll be talking about the law in and of itself. So the Supreme Court said Tuesday that part of a federal law that makes it easier to deport immigrants, that's legal immigrants, not illegal immigrants. Well, that might be all of them together. So immigrants might actually be the right word for this because it's covering illegal and illegal immigrants alike, I think. Who have been convicted of crimes is too vague to be enforced. The court's 5-4 decision concerns a catch-all provision of immigration law that defines what makes a crime violent. Conviction for a crime of violence makes deportation a virtual certainty. That quote is from the opinion of Justice Elena Kagan. For an immigrant, no matter how long he has lived, where's the or she, you bigot, sexist, homophobe, etc., has lived in the United States. The decision is a loss for President Trump's administration. It's a loss for the Trump administration in that the Trump administration was on the side that lost the case. Not so much that it was a loss for the agenda of the Trump administration. I want to... Okay, this is a quote from the Gorsuch opinion. No one should be surprised that the Constitution looks unkindly on any law so vague that reasonable people cannot understand its terms and judges do not know where to begin applying it. That I think I read some. How many pages? I probably read a dozen of the 96 pages of legal opinion from this case, and that statement sums up to a pretty decent extent Gorsuch's opinion on the matter. Gorsuch is invoking something called vagueness doctrine, and it's a practice from the Supreme Court that grows out of the Fifth Amendment. And they actually talk about in this column a similar decision not identical but similar from back in 2015. The majority opinion wrote by Antonin Scalia, and that federal, in that case, there was a federal law that imposed longer prison sentences on repeat criminals. The majority opinion wrote by Antonin Scalia. It was defeated by an 8-1 vote, and I went and found a column writing about that case. This is from USA Today. Let me skip. This might be interesting. Popular anti-crime bill passed by Congress 3 decades ago against a neo-Nazi and a white supremacist. The provision in question was a key section of the Armed Career Criminal Act of 1984. Justice Scalia wrote the majority opinion, but Justice Thomas, another Supreme Court justice that I have high respect for his opinion, did not agree that the law itself was at fault. A single justice dissented. Let's see. The problem for the court was that the clause in question allows past convictions to be treated as violent felonies even if no violence occurred. So that's the vagueness of the case from 2015. Now, I might go into a little bit of this. Yeah, I am going to go into this, into the opinion document. Let me just see if they've got any of the dissent opinion. They do not. So I am going to go into the Supreme Court document. Sure, I want to download it again because I want you to open up directly from here. Now, there it is, 1 out of 96. This is quite long. I wonder if I can hit this button and look for Justice Thomas, and no, apparently that's not going to work. So, what page am I on? It's ways down here. Where are we? We're still in the opinion of Kagan. So you can see how long this is. The opinion of the majority opinion is 30 pages long. Gorsuch's opinion begins here on page 31. I'm going to skip most of it because I think we've encapsulated the majority of that. Gorsuch's opinion continues on for at least 15 pages. We're going on 20 pages now. All right, here's the majority opinion, beginning with the opinion presented by Justice Roberts. And Justice Roberts presents that the term crime of violence, which is the vague opinion or the vague language of the law that's been struck down by the majority, he points out that the term crime of violence appears repeatedly throughout the Federal Criminal Code. Section 16 of Title 18 defines the term crime of violence, and that's where the dissenting judges are reasoning on their vote. I believe that Justice Thomas agrees for the most part with that. Let me see if I can get something. Yeah, okay, so here's something additional from Justice Thomas's dissent. While the Chief Justice, that would be Roberts, persuasively explains why respondent cannot prevail under our precedents, I write separately to make 2 additional points. First, I continue to doubt that our practice of striking down statutes as unconstitutionally vague is consistent with the original meaning of the Due Process Clause. Second, if the court thinks that 16b is unconstitutionally vague because of the categorical approach, then the court should abandon that approach, not insist on reading it into statutes and then strike them down. Accordingly, I respectfully dissent. So, that is the big takeaway from Justice Thomas's dissent in this case. As far as I am concerned, I think that the liberal justices were voting in a partisan manner. You call me a partisan for believing that, if you will. The place that where I think this is most evident is in the opening line of the majority opinion. The Immigration and Nationality Act virtually guarantees that any alien convicted of an, quote, aggravated felony after entering the United States will be deported, which is kind of the point. I mean, we want people to come to the United States and be law-abiding citizens, Miss Kagan. We don't want them to come here and then become career criminals, to get involved in crime. That's not the kind of people that we want to immigrate to this country. I would like to see if I can show you. Yeah, so Kagan delivers the following opinion, where we just read the opening statement, and Gorsuch does not join in with Justices Kagan, Ginsburg, Breyer, and Sotomayor on this argument, which I believe is partisan. Gorsuch is involved in this case in so much as he is sticking to what he believes the Constitution says about this case. Where the liberal justices are being partisan, I believe that Gorsuch is voting with what he believes the Constitution rules in this case. I think the four dissenting justices are doing the same. Whether or not Gorsuch made a mistake, I don't think I have enough knowledge to make that declaration. I can't really say. I would have rather seen Gorsuch vote with the rest of the conservatives as far as the immigration policy goes, but whether or not the vagueness doctrine really does apply here, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe this book that I'm reading will shed some light on this on the issue of the vagueness doctrine, if not this specific issue. Just checking my time here. I still have plenty. So let us move on to the second story that I wanted to talk about. So the lawyer, Mr. Cohen, I believe, was in court yesterday, and he was forced to reveal one of his clients, as defined by Cohen, is Fox News' Sean Hannity. Now, if you're a fan of mine, you're probably a fan of Sean's, you're probably a fan of Rush's, and as you know, they comment on issues like this. They comment on Sean has commented on the raiding of Cohen's office by the FBI, and he is now being castigated by the mainstream media for having a conflict of interest and not properly disclosing it. Now, we could spend a lot of time talking about that. I think it's worth saying that anybody that watches and listens to Sean Hannity a lot knows exactly where Sean Hannity's political bias lies. He says it all the time. It's actually a rebuttal that he uses against the liberals when he says, I'm not a journalist. I'm not even trying to pretend to be unbiased. I am a biased person, and I tell you that up front. So I don't think that the accusation of Hannity having a conflict of interest is going to stick, because people know what Hannity's interests are. What I do think, however, is worth noting is who the judge is that's presiding in this case. Her name is Kimba Wood, and her history you might consider interesting. According to the first line of this column, Kimba Wood is no stranger to the spotlight. She was once considered for Attorney General by President Bill Clinton, and she even officiated the wedding of left-wing billionaire George Soros. Sebastian Gorka tweeted, "Where's the recusal?" when he learned that Kimba Wood was presiding over the trial of the lawyer of Cohen. And I think that just casts an interesting shade on the left, who, that they champion anybody that goes up against Trump and that goes up against his lawyers, basically goes up against anybody on his side. And then they have the gall to say that Sean Hannity has a conflict of interest because he once solicited legal advice one time from a lawyer. Just in case I didn't actually show that to you, the claim from Hannity is right here. He never paid for Cohen services or has been represented, but had sought confidential legal advice from him. That's the one time. That's the extent of the relationship between Hannity and Cohen. And yet Kimball, who I think Gorka points it out very well right here. She was picked by Bill Clinton to be Attorney General. Now she has power over the lawyer who works for the man who beat Bill's wife in the 2016 election. Not to mention, she may or may not have a personal relationship with one of the most powerful globalists in the world. Did they say anything here about their relationship? They do not. They do not. So maybe her relationship with Soros isn't that good. I mean, Justice of the Peace has to presume over whatever weddings they're required to by law, I would assume. But we still have, I think, a glaring conflict of interest between a federal judge and a lawyer for a person who Kimba Wood perhaps has a political bias against. I guess we will see. Maybe it's not as big a deal as I'm thinking it is, or some of the people in the media are making it out to be. Maybe it's not. But then again, what do you think the mainstream media would be saying were the letters behind the names reversed? If Kimba Wood was a Republican presiding over the case of a Democrat lawyer for a Democrat president who had just beaten the Republican presidential candidate who was a spouse to a Republican president who had tapped Kimba Wood for Attorney General, what exactly do you think would be the headlines from the mainstream media? I know it's a cliche, but when it's true, what can you do? That's going to do it for this video. I hope that you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, hit subscribe, and the bell for notifications if you want to see more videos like this. This video is coming out late today, but I think I am going to get to continue to do for the next day at least what I got to do today. A short video at lunchtime, longer video in the evening. Let me know if you guys like that format. I'm not going to get to do that on Thursday, but I might see if I can continue that format for a few days. Or if you guys like it enough, maybe I'll try to make it a continuous part of this channel. Again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good night, and God bless.